Okay, guys, I'm here with my good friend Dennis Asche. Dennis and I actually have a lot in common. We're both black belts, we're both school owners, and we both dedicated a big chunk of our early training to living in the motherland, which was Brazil. And so I want to talk to you about that. Thanks so much for doing this. When I moved to Brazil, the first week that I was there, I don't know if you remember this, but I was staying at a place called Posada Baja Sol, and it was $20 a night, which was outside of my budget, believe it or not. I had to find like a better place. And then I met you on the match like that week. You had just set up like this little tiny house, like it was a 2-story house, but I think it was like 300 square feet total. And it had a staircase, very charming, very Brazil Islander lifestyle. And I overheard you talking to two brothers from England, Jack and, gosh, I forgot the other one's name. Adam, yeah. And we were talking about finding a place to stay, and I just jumped in the conversation. I was like, "You need one more guy?" And you're like, "Yeah, come on." That's how I started, and we ended up living together for 6 months. But man, it was one of the best moments of my life. I was there for like 14 months. You were there for a very long time. But give me just kind of retell your story. Like, how did you first find jiu-jitsu? Why did you make it such an important part of your life, so much so you're willing to move, to another country and dedicate yourself there? And now, obviously, giving it back, to your students, having your own academy. So, kind of give us your story here.
Well, thanks for having me on, Travis. Really a pleasure. It's good to reconnect with you too and see your face. I hope to have you over here when I get through all this COVID crap too.
So. Yeah, no kidding, man. I think it's finally letting up a little bit, but there's still there's a spectrum of fear. It's like people that they don't want to leave their house till there's 3 vaccines, and then the people that are like, man, let's just spar, and I don't care who gets sick. And I'm like, well, I can't do either one of those. So there's this in between. But how are you handling with your guys?
Well, we wanted to follow through and make sure that we were told by the government that it was going to be a 2-week thing, and here we are, 2 months later.
Right.
So we're doing all right. We did a ton of online classes. We've expanded our video library. We remodeled our academy, or we're actually in the final phase of remodeling it today. We're tiling the floors. We're on our way to go do that right now. Yeah. And a lot of stuff going on, but I think we made the most of our time. It's definitely a difficult thing. It's hard for the students. The students want to spar, and there are those students that don't want to train at all right now. They want to keep doing the social distancing, self-quarantine type thing. And I'm over it. I'm ready to train. So yeah. I'm ready to have everybody back to normal, and not the new normal. I want it to be normal again. So yeah, that's where we're at there. But in answer to your questions, originally, the first time I saw jiu-jitsu was the first UFC. I saw VHS tape of that, and I didn't think there was any way the voice was going to win, as most people did. At the time I was training in karate and Kempo karate, and I was like, oh, the Kempo guy is going to win for sure. It was Keith Hackney, big dude with pretty solid striker, and everyone, voice proceeded to completely dominate that event. And by the end, I knew that was something that I wanted to add into my game. I wanted to be a more well-rounded fighter, and decided that karate wasn't the only thing in the world. And I started seeking it out, and years later, it took a little while, but a few years later, I ended up in Southern California training, and from there, it just expanded. I'd come back up to Oregon for a little while, and ended up back down there after I had started fighting MMA, and I knew that I didn't want to. I was raised here in Central Oregon in Bend, and I knew that I didn't want to be a big fish in a small pond, because at the time, there wasn't any black belts in Oregon. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to seek out a higher level of training, and I went back down to Southern California, actually hitchhiked down there, and ended up living in MTA USA, the Muay Thai Academy in North Hollywood. And a friend down there introduced me to John Machado. I had already, my first day of jiu-jitsu to gi was with Jean-Jacques. And this time I went back and I ended up training with John Machado, and he really took me under his wing and broke my game down with little jiu-jitsu I had there, and built it up into something that was really I could go far with. And he taught me a lot more about life and jiu-jitsu and philosophy, and just maybe set me on the right path. But from there, I set MMA aside and really wanted to focus on my jiu-jitsu, and started competing in every championship. And in LA at the time, LA was the hub in the United States. That was like where you wanted to be if you wanted to be surrounded by jiu-jitsu. And so I was able to compete almost every weekend, and started winning, and won the U.S. Nationals, won the Southern California Open, and then won eventually the Gracie Open, the first Gracie Open, and that got me my first ticket to Brazil. I actually won the passage there and was able to stay with Grandmaster Helio, and I loved it. I loved Brazil.
What was that like? Like, obviously, if you've been doing jiu-jitsu long, you know that this is like the kind of the originator, the godfather of the art that we all, enjoy today. And you get to just hang out and stay with Helio Gracie. Like, was that pretty surreal, or was it just like?
It was. No, it was totally surreal. It was an amazing experience, and that was. I tell people this all the time. Master Florian Gracie, he did it like he said. The winners of this are going to have a life-changing experience, and it really was for me. And more than one point for the fact that I had always wanted. This was on my bucket list. I wanted to thank Florian personally for making the UFC Jiu-Jitsu high level. Being at Grandmaster Helio's house, that was definitely a life-changing experience for me. And it was something that was amazing to the fact that this is one of the founding fathers of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and this was, was able to spend time with him in his house, train on his green mats, and right in his farm. It was amazing, and that taught me a lot. I mean, the little amount of time that I spent a week there. It wasn't like I was there at Grandmaster Helio's house for years, but the week that I spent there on the Gracie diet, being introduced to Rio by his family and being able to train with him. His son, his grandson's on that, and it was amazing. Nothing short of that, a changing experience, and that really prompted me to move to Brazil in the first place. Because when I went down there, being a part of the U.S. team, I'd asked sponsors to keep me there for 6 weeks. So it was an amazing experience, and training with Grandmaster Helio and learning some of the. Even as at that time, he was teaching everybody like fundamentals. He was so big on the fundamentals. That was one of the times when it really clicked for me. It's sometimes things. You hear something or your professor says something to you, and you're like, yeah, okay, all right. But that really ingrained in my mind how important the fundamentals were. Like, even in his early 90s, Grandmaster Helio had a hell of a grip strength. He had incredible cross collar choke and a good mount, and those kind of things that are built up through that continuous refinement of those fundamentals. And that was something that I sought out to do even more after having trained with him. So yeah, it was an amazing overall experience. And who better than to introduce you to Rio and to Brazil in the motherland than the Gracie family, So
yeah, that's awesome. Kind of like the equivalent of they say people like are born with a silver spoon. That's like a silver spoon jiu-jitsu situation. Like, you get to start off with the Machados, the cousins to the Gracies, pioneers of the art, and then win a trip to the motherland to train with the founding father of the art. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was especially for me. Because coming from where I came from, there was, like I said, wasn't even a black belt in the state. And I had to go seek that out and to kind of let that settle in when I was in Brazil and think like, man, look how far I made it from my little hometown. So it was pretty amazing.
Well, I have a similar story. Like there was only one black belt in Texas at the time. That was Carlos Machado, John's brother.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was in Houston.
He was your professor. Yeah.
My professor for many years, and I had to drive to Dallas to have a chance to train with a black belt, the only one in in Texas, which is a giant state, so it's like a long drive. And yeah, so I mean, it's similar, like I said, similar story. You know, we both trained with the same family, and then you had a chance to go to Brazil. I went to Brazil to compete in the brown belt world championships in 2003, and at that point, I had thought what it would be like to live in Brazil, but I never thought it would be a thing. Like, it wasn't something I considered across my mind. And then I went there, and I don't know if it was, I think it was maybe like this for you, but I felt like within a couple of days, like that's what my mind was doing. Like, how can I stay here longer? Because this is something that it's worth investing a chunk of my young years to doing, because I won't be able to do this, you know, as easily when I'm older, or if I have a career. You know, like now having a school, you can't just take a year off to go live in Brazil. So did you plan on staying as long? Well, first of all, how long did you stay, and did you plan on staying that long originally?
All in all, I stayed there for 12 years on Brazilian soil. But I had I stayed there for those 6 weeks. I came back. I won my whatever it was my match against the counterpart from Brazil, and then I went back down there the following month and ended up staying for 2 years. And then I came back for almost a year, and then ended up back in Brazil for another 10 years. So it was, no, I didn't plan on staying for that long. I had planned on going down for a while, and then when I got there again, I was, you know what, I'm going to stay here for a long time, and I did. And I remember like some of the things that kind of comical when I left after the first 2 years. I left at almost the same time that I'd entered the country, like within a few days, I think, of the month. And I went through customs, and the Brazilian customs agent took my passport, took a look at it, and he had the stamp in his hand. He was about to stamp, and he goes, "Wait a minute, you've been here for 2 years. You can't do that." And I said, "I already did." So that didn't go over so well, but I made it out of the country. And
you didn't pay the fine either. You just left.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I just left. They at first they took me, like two guards came in and they escorted me to a room in the basement. The Galeão, the airport, was a lot different then. They haven't upgraded and stuff. They escorted me to the federal police, like a little basement room with these guys, and they started grilling me. They're like, "Oh, so you got to pay this fine," and I was like, "I don't have anybody to pay that fine with." And they're like, "What? You're an American? You don't have any money?" I said, "No, I don't have anybody to pay that fine with." And I said, "Excuse me, am I going to miss my flight?" And they go, "No." And I just kind of relaxed, took some weight off my shoulders, and then I started making fun of them for watching the novella. And then when it was time to leave, I had to sign a paper that said when I came back in the country, I had to pay a fine for overstaying the visa, which at the time with the exchange rate was probably like $200.
Right.
So I figure staying there for 2 years at $200 rent for the country wasn't bad. So
while we're walking up to the school, which is called Connection Rio, and that was
yes.
That was kind of the business, I'll call it, that you started while in Brazil.
Yes.
Originally you just rented a house and you subleased some rooms to kind of help fund your stay. I think there's this idea that if you're, like, I think if you're watching, there's like a rich guy that moved to Brazil for like 10 years just to party. And, it wasn't like that for me. I know it wasn't like that for you. We weren't coming with like a ton of money. It was really like you had to figure out how to make it while you were there. And even though the cost of living is a little cheaper, it's not like we went there because we had a job waiting for us. We went there for jiu-jitsu and how to make, how to survive, while we, how did you manage that? How did you build it up? And then what finally, I guess, you can lead into what brought you back to start the academy and everything.
Well, starting with with Connection Rio, it was originally, that's exactly what it was. It was a house and subletting rooms in it, and I wanted to expand on that. I really wanted something else. Something that was really important to me was providing accommodations and connections to people without that kind of stereotypical malandro type thing that the Brazilians would do. You come there and like, oh, here's a sweatshirt. It's we're going to charge you 5 times as much for it because you're a gringo. You know, that's
At the airport, by the way, with the cab ride to wherever you're going.
so I'm going to flip this camera around for a second. You can take a look at the academy, and please be forewarned, it's a bit of a mess because we are in the middle of remodeling right now, but
Oh, it's a good size, man. Very nice.
yeah, this is it.
Beautiful. Congratulations, by the way, man.
Thank you. This is huge for me. It's a dream come true. And even one up on that is the fact that this academy is actually the very first place I ever trained martial arts. It used to be a Kempo karate studio. And in 1984, first time I ever trained was in this same building.
Really?
So, yeah, pretty amazing.
That is
Here,
that's
check
really,
out a little bit of Joe Sarah's towel work there. She's leading the march on the towels, but yeah, pretty good. So this is our dressing rooms. This is our stuff we got going on.
kind of like the changing room area.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So back to the last question you had on was getting started and when we
That was a really good view of your cauliflower you're giving me right now.
Thanks. Great. Perfect. So yeah, I wanted to start a place that was friendly to foreigners, that wasn't about ripping people off, but it was a fair price, and I wanted to attract athletes that were serious about training. And that's really what it was. When it started out, we got a ton of the best people from different gyms, different academies coming to Rio and staying with us, super dedicated to training and making their jiu-jitsu better. You know, it developed into the hostel. Originally, when I came back, what I had done was I did something similar. I made a lot of connections with people that owned property and houses, and I would set people up with places to stay. And that wasn't quite the experience that I was looking to offer people, because of the fact that there's a lot of variables that you're not really, they're out of your control. And for example, like somebody would come and maybe they'd be promised that they'd have all the channels on their television or something like that, and then when they get there, the homeowner didn't bother to pay the internet bill or the cable bill or something, you know, like, oh, we'll do that later. Oh, we'll take care of that tomorrow, you know, and then that reflects on me, and it affects affected the experience of those people. So it was really important that I got set up with something that had a little bit better control over.
Yeah.
I was able to offer them a better experience. So in 2009, it took a couple of years, but I'd come back in 2006. By 2009, I was set up with the original Connection Rio house and built off of there. And it became something incredible. It was the world's first BJJ hostel, which I trademarked and put a lot of time and effort into it. That was really a dream come true, because it's an ability for me to offer a similar experience to other people that I had experienced myself, and coming there and without the extra things such as learning firsthand about not getting ripped off and knowing where to go and so on and so forth. And after some time there, I really missed home. I really wanted to come back to the place where I was from, and I wanted to share what I'd learned from abroad with a new generation of people in martial arts or in jiu-jitsu. And in 2016 or mid 2016, I ended up coming back here, and with, you know, it wasn't a real easy transition. First, having lived abroad for so long, it was you know, the bizarre thing. I felt like a foreigner in my own country at first. It was really weird walking around and could speak English all the time, And
I love that your ears are so primed when you hear Portuguese, just to like speak to
yeah.
speak to people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do too. Every once in a while, I'll butt in on somebody's conversation because like, oh, I want to speak Portuguese for a minute, But yeah, so that it was a bit of a strange thing to come back to the country and kind of feel like a foreigner. And that was another thing too, like having lived abroad for so long, it was, you really get an appreciation for people who come to a country and live as a foreigner, as somebody who's not from that country and a minority. So I was a minority for 12 years, and it was really, there's not a lot of white Americans that can say like, I know what it's like to be a minority for a decade or a decade plus, so I know, and been there. But when I got back, it was pretty amazing getting through the experience, and then being able to start teaching people here in my hometown was incredible. It was awesome, and we have some great people built up. We went through. I didn't land right in this spot. The first spot I was in, it took. It was okay. I had some difficulties with it as far as it wasn't ideal. Fortunately, we had how do we say, the landowner was good enough to realize his mistakes or the fact that he didn't disclose everything about the space before I was back, and let us out of a commercial lease, a 5-year commercial lease. So if somebody's right, they don't let you out of one of those. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And we ended up here, and a big part of that right there is my wife Josera. She had helped me find the space, and we put a hell of a lot of work into it. It was I was kind of disheartened when I was abroad, because I kind of kept an eye on this place. Thought like, if I ever go back to Bend, I'd really like to teach in that same place where I first started training karate in 1984. And it had, a vape shop had bought it, and they stopped paying their rent on it and ran it into the ground, and there was leaks in the ceiling and vape oil on the walls and jet black paint, and the ceiling was falling down. It was for graffiti on the outside of the building, all this stuff. So when we got back here, it was a mess. What's that?
It was like training in Brazil.
It was, yeah, it was. So we spent a hell of a lot of time getting things in shape, in order here, and got it to the point where we could open up. And when we did, it was great, and it has been great. It's been going really well for the last couple of years. And this COVID thing is much of a pain in the ass as it is, as much as it is a completely unexpected and huge obstacle as it's been. We've made the most of it, and we completely went through the academy and redid it again. We painted everything, and redid the floors, and did a bunch of work to it to come back at 200% of what it was before. But teaching here, being in the United States, being in my hometown, it's just a blessing. And I'm thankful to have learned the knowledge from the people that I learned it from, and to be able to share it with these people here. And I've had my professor Gordo has come here. I've had a good friend Jeremy Arell has come and visited. Team captain from Brazil and the Vale Tudo team, Babalu, has come here to visit. You also got another teammate, Mario Lucio da Silva, has come and visited too, another Brazilian black belt under Gordo. So I've been able to bring a lot of people from from Brazil and from other areas with a lot of knowledge to my hometown, and that also meant a lot to me, because I would like to introduce people to some of the people that have affected my life and have influenced my game. So
Man, I love your story, brother. I really do, and I mean, I think the reason you've been successful the whole time is just because of I would say, the attitude and the resilience that you have. That's beautiful, man. That's I was looking at that before. Oh, that's hilarious. You're gonna probably piss off some really religious people, but that's pretty awesome.
It was a joke. Gordo thought it was pretty funny. We put it up right before he got here, but I never took it down. So.
Yeah, no. I think most people probably wouldn't look, and when they see it, they're like, "Oh, I never thought I know the guy." But yeah, man, like, no, it's so cool to see you come full circle. It's like a martial arts dream, And it takes a lot of courage to move to Brazil. I remember like when I went, I was nervous. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have any connections there. It was just kind of like, I want to go do this thing that like, I feel like I want to do it. I'm a little afraid to do it, but if I don't take the chance, I'm never going to do it again. And then you just keep that attitude with everything you're doing. Because let me ask you this, like, because a lot of people, they'll ask, well, I'd like to do this, but I don't know. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough education. And this is like hands-on learning. You decide what you want to do, you move in that direction, and then you be prepared to stumble and pick yourself up along the way. And, you know, nothing you're saying about moving to Brazil sounds like you had an ironclad perfect plan. You had the dream, you followed it, and you were willing to
take a leap of faith. That's what it was, yeah.
Figure things out as they, you know, as the challenges came. And I do remember I visited you a few years back, and I was blown away at the new Connection Rio, because it was a big yard and a house, and you know, it was like, I was like, dude, this is way nicer than the house that we were in.
Pool, all that, yeah.
Yeah, the charm of that little house was that it was on an island and you had to take a boat. That was, that was pretty cool. That was
it was fun. That was fun. As you know, a part of the journey, a great experience, and I was able to share that with you. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to visit you, man. I gotta make it out to the West Coast. I've been to California many times. I've never been to Oregon. I hear it's beautiful, and I want to come see, you know, what you built. And again, man, thanks so much for sharing it. And like, what would you last word to? What would you say to anybody like who's young, who has a dream, and they can't pull the trigger. They're just afraid to do it.
Yeah, I got that. No, your last question. That sorry for not answering that yet, but it's one of those things with anything in life. If you have an opportunity that is presented to you, even if you're afraid, even if you're uncertain of it, if it's something that you really truly want in your heart, then I believe you should take that leap of faith. And nothing, for the most part, goes as planned. It's one of those things where, you know, you could take that leap of faith and you could fall flat on your face, but you need to be prepared for that, and you need to keep going and follow your dreams. I think that one of the biggest things that has allowed me to do some of the things that I've done in life is that, you know, that drive. You know, if I'm following my dreams, I'm following what's in my heart. And when, you know, that's what's brought me back here full circle. That's what led me to Los Angeles, training with John Machado. That's what got me to Brazil and earning my brown and black belt under Gordo, and got me back here to my hometown of Bend, Oregon, and teaching here. You know, and now I'm in an academy with a wonderful wife and a great life here, and that's all because I never gave up. I kept following my dreams. So
that's awesome, brother. Yeah. Man, thanks so much for sharing your story. Really inspiring. I know anybody watching this is going to be motivated to do whatever they're doing today. You motivated me to go have a kick-ass day. So I really appreciate it, man. And man, we should do another one, because I feel like we have 100 stories that we could tell just about.
Oh yeah, plenty. I could. Yeah, you got just as many as I do, and I really I look forward to being able to bring you here and introduce you to the Connection Rio students, and you know, show you around Central Oregon as well. But it'd be great. You got tons of knowledge. You're a very good professor and a top-notch athlete, and it'd be great to allow my students the opportunity to meet and train with you as well. So it's been a pleasure. Yeah, and I look forward to more.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations again. I'll let you get on with your day, but it's been great, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Trav. You have a good one.
Good one.
All right.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Also, don't forget to share this video with somebody else. Thank you.